What if I said to you that I think that Black History Month might be a point source for systemic racism in America? I know, right? Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. We're having beautiful weather today in February in sunny Southern California, so I've decided to try to make my video outside today. We have a fountain outside, so hopefully it's not going to affect the sound too much, but I just decided to take advantage of the weather on this lovely day, almost last day of February. So I kind of have an interesting topic for you today. What if I said to you that I think that Black History Month might be a point source for systemic racism in America? I know, right? I want to be clear, I'm not calling for an end to Black History Month celebrations. I think that there is an important role that this kind of education has to play in the development of children. I think I'm probably calling for a reformation of Black History Month and kind of an evolution into maybe a Black Culture Appreciation Month. Could that work? And the bottom line is I have two children, an 11-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old son, and as they've been in elementary school, I have seen that Black History Month conversations have had more of a negative impact on their personal self-concept and their socialization than a positive one. And as I've talked to different mothers of children from different races, I've seen that they are also finding it difficult with the way that curriculum is introduced, the age at which the curriculum is introduced, and with the delivery of the curriculum. So there are a few different problems here. For 4 years, I did an informal kind of research project and hosted conversations and panel discussions with mothers of children from different races that lived in affluent communities in California. My organization and project was called Race, Class, and Parenting. And for many years, I collected data on what was going on with different women who are trying to raise confident, sensitive, and loving children in this world. In doing the research, often to prepare for the sessions that I was hosting, I discovered a lot about race and child development. And in particular, I learned that past age 9, a child's ideology about the social structure of the world or of their society is pretty much fixed, which is interesting. So unless they have a life-altering experience, the way they see the world in terms of gender hierarchies or racial hierarchies is not going to change. That's shocking. So I think it's interesting that before they hit that important milestone, we actually impose a social hierarchy on them in elementary school with the delivery of Black History Month curriculum. Follow me on this thought process. I think the only people in our society who can really even begin to claim a social colorblindness are small children. Usually we see that small children are not ascribing any meaning to racial differences until we as a society teach them about the meaning of those differences. And in our society, we actually teach them in school the meaning of those differences. We impose a social hierarchy where white people are at the top of that hierarchy and other races fall beneath that. Black History Month is even a misnomer because Black history pretty much starts at the beginning of human history. However, in the delivery of this curriculum, it's really the slavery to civil rights narrative that predominates. I also noticed that a lot of the curriculum is delivered in the passive voice. So a lot of the readings that came home with my children were, Harriet Tubman was a slave. Harriet Tubman was separated from her family. But there's no discussion of who did the separating. There's no exploration of the psychology of the oppressor, probably because it's developmentally inappropriate, as is most of this. I'm not saying that we don't need to have these conversations, but we definitely have to be sensitive to child development, and in particular, the nexus between child development and racial ideologies. This could be one of the reasons why the Holocaust is not really discussed until middle school and high school, because there is an opportunity to discuss the psychology, the profiles of the oppressor, what was going on in Nazi Germany, and to be able to critique effectively the entire structure and belief system that led to that kind of level of oppression. I would say for the most part, I don't think that my children have derived empowerment from the stories or the narratives related to Black History Month at all. It's something that I've had to give a lot of context because clearly it's not being given in the classroom, to help them understand how to situate these narratives in their personal history and to derive positive meaning from these stories that are being told to them a little bit haphazardly. The way that these stories are told, the only natural result is to think that African Americans are an inferior race because of the oversimplification, which is necessary because they're too little. So it's just, you know, kind of a vicious cycle of something that just isn't really working. And if it's not really working, it's certainly not fulfilling the objective. I think the original objective is to raise positive and constructive awareness about the experience of Black people, and to do that towards making social progress and counteracting racism. But again, like I said, I think this could be a point source for racism in our education system in this country. I've talked to so many people whose children were either traumatized, confused, upset about these narratives. I know there was one friend that I had who said that her son came home at 7 years old, African-American boy, came home at 7 years old and was like, "Mommy, do you know that they used to hang Black people from trees?" Really, is that developmentally appropriate for a 7-year-old? Let's ask ourselves, people. My neighbor, who's got an amazing, lovely family, they are white, and she said that her son came home from Black History Month one day and started pointing at people and saying, "He's African American, he's African American." And this is when he was probably in 1st or 2nd grade. And up until that moment, he was just taking people as they were and not, you know, kind of projecting an entire history and narrative upon each individual. And sometimes these histories and narratives aren't appropriate. You know, my dad came from West Africa and he never went through that historical experience of slavery. But when we oversimplify again to children, there's an assumption that all of these experiences have happened to all people with brown skin, and it's just not true. Same thing with another family, Asian American family. I know that I spoke to one of the little girls in that family, and she said she had never realized that not all Black people had been enslaved, or that wasn't part of every Black person's history here in the United States. So there's not even an acknowledgement of recent immigration. I have another friend who just told me today that when her daughter was in 1st grade or 2nd grade, and she's originally from Mexico and her husband is Caucasian white, her daughter came home and said, "I don't even know if you guys would have been allowed to be married." And she was just saying that that's a conversation that she wanted to take the lead on and she wanted to have with her daughter, not to have, again, these ideas delivered to her daughter, and she's kind of left to have to process this and process the meaning of her own existence at 6, 7 years old without sufficient context. So I think the question we have to ask ourselves is, are we doing more harm than good? And what could a constructive presentation of a Black History Month or a Black Heritage Celebration Month really look like that would be empowering communities of color, children from communities of color, and also giving positive information that isn't connected to status in society to these small children of all races? Something to think about. And I just want to give a shout out to our elementary school. I just got back from our Black History Month celebration and it was really beautifully done, I do have to say. I think that what's great about our community is they seem to be open to dialogue and feedback as far as how to deliver this curriculum in a constructive way. So hopefully this is something that can spark conversations in more communities. We are in our 90-second commute to school. We're on our way to drop Lincoln off, and it's also the Black History Month celebration at school. So I just wanted to say good morning to everyone, pick up a little footage from the day. are just questions that really are intended to begin a conversation, to provoke thought, and to open up a dialogue about what we can do that's, in better service to our children and our communities. And so please leave a comment, leave your questions, leave your feedback below. Obviously, again, I'm not trying to discourage the celebration of African American people or to demean or abase the accomplishments and contributions that Black people have made to American society. It's been fabulous, it's exciting. Those are empowering narratives. The challenges overcome are empowering. But the real question again is, when should these narratives and how should these narratives be delivered to our children? Should they even be delivered to small children at all? And are we sure that these narratives are yielding the outcomes that we intend? So thanks for watching. Please follow and subscribe.